Lush. I'm outside the Hub Culture Ice House Pavilion here in Davos, joined by a repeat guest. Thanks very much for coming along.
It's nice to be back.
Stuart Russell, now you're a professor of computer science at UC Berkeley.
That's right.
Last time we spoke, we talked about the ethics behind AI, behind robots. How does the robot know not to cook the cat when the fridge is empty? How do you think the discussion has moved on since then?
So two things have happened. One is that the field as a whole has accepted that there is a real problem, not just cooking the cat, but the general problem, we might call it the King Midas problem. You ask an intelligent machine to do something and it takes you very literally, it does exactly what you say, and then you regret it, right? And we only have one human race, we don't get to have a do-over.
Right.
So the big question is, how do you get machines to behave in a way that's guaranteed not to make you unhappy? Particularly when you actually don't know what you really want and you don't know what's going to make you unhappy. So getting the field to agree there's a problem, that's the first step. The second step is what to do about it. And we're starting to actually have a mathematical theory of machines that are provably beneficial, in the sense that you are provably better off with this machine than without. And it turns out that the key to that is that the machine should be explicitly uncertain about what it is that you want.
So it should ask you questions?
It should ask you questions, it should watch your behavior, which gives clues about what you want. And that uncertainty is in fact what protects us. Because if the machine is absolutely convinced that it knows the objective, then it will kind of stop at nothing to achieve it. Even if it's something as simple as fetching the coffee, right? The machine, for example, it knows it can't fetch the coffee if someone switches it off. So it will defend itself against any possible risk of being switched off, including sort of mowing down everyone in the queue at Starbucks if it's fetching the coffee. So clearly we don't want that kind of behavior. We want machines to allow us to switch them off. We want machines to ask if they're not sure that we want everything turned to gold. Do you really mean that? Or how about just the things I point to and say abracadabra, would that be better, right? So this is how you want a machine to behave. It can only do that if it is not sure what you want.
Some of the people I've talked to here in Davos seem to think that in the next 17 months, we're going to see very quick advances in artificial intelligence, within banking, for example, within healthcare, within education. But in terms of real automated intelligence, the kind of things that we see still in science fiction books, how far away are we from seeing robots coming down the road, helping us out, fetching coffee?
Well, fetching coffee has already been done, so even making coffee now is barista robots that can operate an espresso machine, which is more than I can do. So there's two parts to this. One is what's coming down the pipe. So even given the current technology that we understand in the lab, there are a huge number of applications that still have to be rolled out. And so we will see big advances in banking as one example. You could have a personal advisor that's as good as a high-end private banker, except it'll cost you 9 cents a month to get this advice instead of $100,000 or something.
Right.
So that's big news, and we'll see self-driving cars. They're more difficult than some companies would like us to believe, but we will see that gradually being rolled out. But in terms of the kind of intelligence where you say, whoa, this really is smarter than me, it just figured out the secrets of dark matter and dark energy and how the universe works all by itself, that's multiple breakthroughs away. The technology we have now that's hitting the headlines, the deep learning technology, has no possibility of achieving those kinds of breakthroughs in understanding. And so we need these multiple new conceptual advances, and those are very hard to predict. I often, when people say it's never going to happen, I quote Ernest Rutherford, who was the most famous nuclear physicist of his time back in 1933, on September 11th, oddly enough. So he made this very famous pronouncement that there was no possibility we would ever extract the energy from atoms that they knew to be inside the atom. No possibility.
Right.
And then the next morning, Leo Szilard invented the nuclear chain reaction, patented the nuclear reactor, and pretty soon afterwards people invented the nuclear bomb. So, when people say never, you're betting against the ingenuity of the whole human race. Bad idea. But is it going to be in the next 17 months? Extremely unlikely. We have, I think, a few decades of really intensive research, but let's face it, the investment in AI research is multiplying every year. The number of incredibly smart people who are moving into this field is remarkable. So I think we're going to see accelerating progress.
Just give me a word on the sort of scarier side of AI, the automated weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me the story that scares or excites you the most there.
So what we mean by an autonomous weapon is something that can choose where to go, and can choose who is a target and who to kill. What's scary about that is not so much the possibility that it will accidentally kill civilians, which is certainly real. It's the fact that once you have an autonomous weapon, you decouple the number of weapons that you can launch from the number of people you need to actually do the launching, to do the killing. So 1 million machine guns can do an awful lot of damage, but you need 1 million soldiers to carry them and 5 million people to supply and train and transport those million soldiers. But with autonomous weapons, you can launch an attack with 50 million weapons against an entire country, wipe out every single male between the age of 12 and 75, with 5 guys and half a dozen trucks. And so in that sense, they are weapons of mass destruction. And I'm afraid that given the way warfare and given the way people go, that's a quite likely development unless we take steps to ban full autonomy in weapons.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Dr. Russell, for stopping by the Hub
Very
Culture
nice
Pavilion.
talking to you, Edie.
On that cheery note, I'll end with Go Bears.
Thank you.